everyone. Welcome back to Williamson Ridge Outdoors. Today, it is cold out. As you can probably see, there's some snow flying around here a little bit. But we're going to get out here and we're going to split a little bit of wood. And really, I have finally gotten my work area and stuff cleaned up and got it to the point where I can actually start doing some more work so I can dirty it up again. But I have made it to these real nice oak rounds, and man, I'm telling you what, it's just a pleasure to split wood that is this straight. And it's not real often that I get to do that, because I get wood that stuff that is blown over, or things that are just kind of trashy. I don't want to cut down nice big straight trees, but this was actually blown over in a storm, and it was at a friend's house, and he told me to come over and get it. It's been laying for about a year, and I'm actually kind of curious to see too how seasoned this wood will actually be. It was laying in the full length of a tree on the ground, it blown over. It was completely on the ground for about a year, and in my opinion, I don't think it's going to be seasoned. I think it's going to have to be split up and then dried out that way. I think if we split into these, I'm pretty sure if we take a moisture meter to it, it's going to show that it's still really wet, even though it's been laying on the ground for a year. But anyways, that's not what today's video is about. It's actually getting to try out this big 6-way wedge on our EastonMade 916 and running these nice pretty oak rounds through it that are nice and straight. We're going to see how much we can do. We're going to split for about 10 minutes, and then you can just multiply that by 6, and I'll give you a rough idea of this 6-way wedge and what it's actually capable of splitting, whether it's going to up production from the 4-way wedge or whether it's going to be slower, which I would say that it's going to be a fair amount faster, obviously, because you're getting 6 pieces every time you split the wood. All these rounds are pretty big. I think that it's going to be a pretty good test, and like I say, we'll go for about 10 minutes. We'll end up stacking it up and then see how much we get out of it in 10 minutes, and then just multiply it by 6. I don't think I actually have enough wood here to run 30 minutes or even an hour, so I figured that closest we can get to it anyways will be this 10-minute run. So let's get on with it. We'll get to putting this thing to the test, but first, before we do that, I actually had a request there a little while back to run the wedge from its lowest height all the way to the highest height. As you can see, that wedge has a really wide range of motion to it, but if you need to resplit a piece and it's not big enough to split 6 ways, you can raise that wedge all the way up and just split it in half. 12 minutes and 50 seconds. I had to move the camera around a couple times, all that kind of stuff. Every time I do one of these time things, I always add a couple minutes for that because, you know, I have to move where the camera's sitting at and all that kind of stuff. And most of the time, I don't stop the clock to do that. So we got a pretty good little pile out of that. I actually split this down a little bit more than what I normally would, mainly because it's oak and I figure that it's going to take longer to dry. And I figure that if the pieces are too big, then, I mean, it's going to take it 2 years to dry or something, you know, if you go too big with it. And you can tell, even if this log has been laying for a year, and when you split this apart, you can definitely see the inside of it is still wet. It's definitely not seasoned by no means. And a lot of people think that a tree that has fallen or whatever, you know, if it's been laying down, they think, oh, that's seasoned firewood. That's good. You can split it up and use it right then. Maybe some trees. Ash is probably one that you might be able to do that with. But definitely this oak, when it comes apart, I mean, it is visibly wet on the inside of it still. But you can see how wet or how dark the collaring is of this. And let me show you a piece that has been split for a while and the outside of it's been exposed, and this is off the same tree. Check out the collar difference. This piece has been split for a few months and has just been laying out. It's off the same exact tree. But you can visibly see the difference in the two pieces. The bottom one is really wet, even though this tree's been down for a year. Top one is the same exact tree, it's just been split for a while. So as you can see, we've got us a pretty good little pile of wood here. And like I say, I actually did split this a little smaller than I normally would. But those oak rounds, they're actually really big. And that 6-way wedge, you still have to run them through a second time because they're too big just off the 6-way. But I tell you what, there's nothing no more fun than splitting this nice straight grain oak. I mean, this stuff is straight as an arrow. It is actually, it's fun to split this stuff. And this tree, if it had been in a different situation, would have been pretty good for a saw log. But after I started splitting it, I can see all kinds of bug holes and stuff in it. I'll have to see how much we actually got out of this, but it's going to get dark on me this evening. I'll stack this up and get it counted up and throw it on the end of this video and let you know how much is actually here and what we got in that 10 minutes worth of splitting. So we got our wood counted up, and what we ended up with is 6.25 feet long by 3.291 tall, and the pieces are 1.5 feet long. So that totals out to 30.85 cubic feet, so roughly 31 cubic feet. If you times that by 6, which would be what you would get in an hour, or roughly, then that's 1.44 cords. So pretty much, again, on the mark for that 1.5 cord per hour, even with the 6-way. It seems like that's kind of like the thing that this 916 is showing. It's consistently 1.5 cords per hour. I've gotten more than that out of it, like 1 3/4 cords. But 1.5 cords per hour is like the consistent number that you can rely on if you're working this machine, or say you bought one and you know you've got some guys running it for you and trying to get production out. You can pretty much calculate that you're almost always going to get 1.5 cords out of it at least. So with that being said, guys, if you like videos like this, make sure to click that thumbs up button, subscribe, and thanks for watching.